What's going on, everyone? In today's video, I'm going to give you 7 Keepa tips that are going to make you so much better at online book arbitrage. If you're new to the channel, my name is Joji. I'm a high school teacher and I sell 6 figures of online book arbitrage. That means I buy books on Amazon and flip them on Amazon for a profit, and I do that reading Keepa graphs. And in this video, I'm really hoping that these tips are going to help you out a lot. So we're over here on the first book, and the first tip for you is going to be how to identify the baseline value of a book. In other words, how do you determine what a book is actually worth? So I'm going to give you 5 or 6 examples here of different books, and we're going to figure out what the baseline value is. And the way that we're going to do this is by looking at 2 things on the Keepa chart. And those 2 things are this black line, which is the lowest used price on Amazon, and then also this green line, which is called sales rank. So you can see here we have this book, Colorado 1870 to 2000. We want to know what is the baseline value. Well, all we really need to do is just use our cursor, go left to right over this black line. You can see that it's going to give us a price here. And one thing that I hope you're able to see is that for basically this entire 1-year period, so I'm looking at 1 year on Keepa, this book has been between $7 to $10. That's the baseline value. Now, how do I know that? Because this other metric, which is called sales rank, this green line here, you notice that it starts dropping. Whenever that sales rank drops, that essentially means that the book is becoming more popular. That means that the book is selling. So if we overlap the sales rank dropping with the lowest used price over time, we get a baseline value of the book, okay? So this book here is worth right around $8 to $10. Now, notice on Amazon that there's actually 4 offers listed for $50. So this is a book that just recently jumped up in price really high. But again, the baseline value, this book has been selling for right around $7 to $10 over the last year. Okay, so this next book that we're gonna look at has a little bit more value, has a higher baseline. So here it is, 4 treasury of favorite recipes. We can scroll down here to the Keepa chart. One thing that you'll notice here, let me get rid of this and get rid of that, is that if you look at that black line, the lowest used price, notice that it's not $7 or $10. It's actually $34.99. It's $22. It's back up to $34. It's come down a little bit here. And notice when the sales rank is dropping. Look, sales rank drop here at 35, sales rank drop at 35, sales rank drop at 20, 25, and this is a book that has a baseline value a little bit higher. So this book is worth more money. Now, it might not sell as much, but its lowest used price on Amazon is significantly higher than the previous book. All right, here's the third example. This is going to have even a higher baseline value. You can see this right now on Amazon. You can see the lowest used price here over pretty much the entire year has been right around $76, $75. And again, we see that sales rank is actually dropping when the lowest used price is right around 75. So this is a book that has a baseline value even higher than the previous book. Now, what's interesting is you can see that the price of this book did all of a sudden come down really, really cheaply. And you can see there's been quite a few more sales rank drops. It's becoming a little bit more popular, probably because an expensive book has all of a sudden become, way cheaper than it normally is. Now, the next book here, a really awesome book, Halloween 2, you can see that this is a book that's actually very expensive. Buy box price is $150 over here on Amazon. But again, what we can do is use our cursor. Let's go left or right. And one thing that we'll notice is that this is a book that has the lowest used price right around $150. And we see that's when the sales rank is dropping. So again, this is a book that has even a higher baseline value. Okay, so again, we're trying to figure out what is the worst, what is a book worth? What is it inherently worth? Well, all we have to figure out is what's the cheapest that you could have bought it on Amazon, and was it actually selling? Was it becoming more popular? That's how we identify the baseline value of the book. Now, one last example, we're going even higher. Yes, there are books that sell for even over $150. This is a book here where if you look at this black lowest used line, you can see that if I use my cursor, go left or right, it's right around the $330 to $350 range. Plenty of sales rank drops, so this book is becoming way more popular, and in the cheapest price on Amazon is over $300. So we just established the baseline value of the book. This book here is significantly more expensive than the Halloween book. Halloween book is significantly more expensive than this book, more expensive than this book, more expensive than this book, and so on. Okay, so I hope that helped identifying the baseline value of the book. Okay, the second Keepa tip I have to help you become a pro at this is to zoom in and out on the Keepa chart. And what do I mean by that? So all that really means is we're going to take our cursor, we're going to left click, and we're going to drag here on the Keepa chart. So watch, I'm going to left click with my cursor, then I'm going to drag. You can see this becomes highlighted, and then I'm going to let go. That zooms into some data. And the reason why it's really cool to zoom in on some data is because then we can see, what was the price when the sales rank dropped. We can see the price here is $10.21. That's when the sales rank dropped there, okay? If we go to one of these other products here, we can say, okay, well, how cheap did this book get here back in October? Well, we can, again, left click, drag, zoom in. We could even left click, drag, zoom in, left click, drag. I mean, we could go literally to the hour of a specific day. So it gives us a way to analyze sales rank or use price on a very specific point in time. So now, how do you zoom back out? All you gotta do is double click. So again, we left click, drag, and release. And then if we want to get back to the view that we were at before, all we're gonna do is double left click brings us back, okay? So you can see if we want to figure out, well, what is the price over the last few weeks? We can zoom into that. look, here's when the sales rank dropped when the price is 14. If I want to again see everything, double click, boom, I'm back to that. Okay, the third very powerful tip I have for you to become a Keepa Pro is to expand the entire historical selling history of a book, of any book on Amazon. And you can do that easily down here in the Keepa chart. So right now I'm defaulted to a year view, but we can look at the entire length of time that book has been listed on Amazon and has been tracked by Keepa. So this book specifically has been tracked by 3,600 days. And we can get a lot more information about this book if we look at that much data versus just a year, right? If we click this 3,658 days, one thing that we can figure out is back here in 2014 and 2015 and 2016, like this book was selling for right around $7 to $10. We can see it's a little bit cheaper, a little bit more expensive, but we can use kind of the last two tips, look at the last historical selling data, and then also zoom in on specific periods of time just to get more information. So if I want to know what happened here in the middle of 2020, look, I could drag in, I can go really narrow. May 24th of 2020, this book got down to 5 cents. And that would have been an absolutely insane pickup, considering that you had sales rank data showing this book was selling for over $40, even over $70. Boom, price of this dropped down to 5 cents. Whoever picked up that copy made a lot of money, right? So being able not only to zoom in on very specific key points, but looking at entire historical data is helpful, because then we can figure out, is the book inflated in price right now, or is it normally this expensive, right? So it looks like this book recently in this past year is actually maybe selling for a little bit more than it normally does, because if we kind of look at past data of 2019, 2020, 2021, you can see that the used price, while it does sometimes get up there to about $190, normally it's right around like the $70 to $80 range. All right, the fourth tip I have for you to become a Keepa Pro is to understand the supply and demand dynamics. That means to be able to look at how the offer count of a book and how it's changed over time will influence what price it will likely sell out. So I have a whole bunch of different books here again, a couple examples to show you. So the first one here is Merry Christmas, a Songbook. This is actually a Christmas book, came out in 1981. And let me show you a little bit about supply and demand. Look at this. If you look on the Keepa graph, you'll notice a few things here. One, that sales rank has the stereotypical U-shaped pattern. You can see that it gets really low, right in November, December, because this is a Christmas book. There's a lot of demand then. And then you can also see how the offer count, which is this black line here on the bottom graph, you can see how that also ebbs and flows. So when the sales rank gets really low, when the popularity increases significantly, you see the offer count also go down, right? And that makes sense. If people are buying the book, there's going to be less copies available on Amazon. But what's more fascinating is you can see how the price of this book now increases. You see how that lowest use price increases during that same time? So this is just simple supply and demand. So anyone who looked at this pattern over the last decade could come to this book, right? This is a Christmas book, could come to this book and literally buy it for $15 in the off season and pretty reliably sell it for $40 to $50. This is one of the best Christmas books out there. And if you're interested in online seasonal book arbitrage, like finding great Christmas books, make sure you check out this video here. Victor Gallegos, he explains all of that. And by the way, exciting news, we'll be coming out with a list of books as well, Christmas books, but more on that later here. Okay, so this is obviously a book that just shows simple supply and demand, can obviously increase in price as popularity increases and so on. All right, this next book is actually fascinating. This is a book that actually pretty much has no value at all, except for one point in time when it had a lot of value. So here's what I mean. The Western Canon here, this was written by Harold Bloom. I believe Harold Bloom passed away. We look at the last 4,500 days using one of our last Keepa Pro tips, which is expanding the data. Notice how back here in 2019, notice how this book got all the way up to about $35 when normally its baseline value is right around $2, right? So we look at the last few years before that, even the last 3 or 4 years after that point, basically the baseline value of this book's right around $2 or $3. That's when the sales rank is dropping. But during this one period of time, you see this massive spike in price coupled by this offer count decreasing significantly. So the question is, why did it decrease so significantly? Well, unfortunately, the author Harold Bloom died on October 14, 2019. I didn't actually know who this person was, although I probably should know who this person is, but you can see that this is October 14 right here. That's when the offer count started decreasing a lot because for whatever reason, when people die, a lot of people care about that person. I don't know why that is necessarily. People should care about people if they really like him beforehand, but whenever someone dies, a lot of times their work becomes more popular. So you can see this person, this author died on October 14th, and then you can see how the offer count drastically changed. Went from basically 114 offers on the listing, 10 days later down to 17. And then basically you can see, sales rank improved drastically. You can also see the used prices went way up. And then you can see after a few months, you can see how the used offer count starts creeping back up, and then you can see how this used price starts coming back down. So just simple supply and demand. The fewer copies that there are available, then the more we would expect that book to be, and the reverse is true. The more copies we have available, the less or the lower the price we expect to be. All right, here's another example. This is a high school book. You can see if we scroll down here to the Keepa chart, that basically over the last forever, that the lowest used price of this book always inflates during a very specific period of time. That's when the sales rank improves, and that tends to always happen to be in July, August, September. This is a high school book. That's when people go back to school. So again, simple supply and demand. We just see how that lowest used price increases during the same period of time. What that just means is that in the off season, I mean, this is a book that you could probably pick up for 15 to 20 bucks, and you could probably easily sell this for, 50, 60, or even more. You can see right now, looks like the price got up to 60 when just a couple months earlier, you could have bought it for right around $23. So just another example of seasonal online book arbitrage, this time not with a Christmas book, but with a high school book. Now, let me show you an example of a book that you would have got burned on if you bought this. So if we look at the last 943 days, this is a book that looked like it had some great seasonality. It looks like in July and also in January, we see the sales rank improve. We see the price increase. So this looks like a textbook. Look how crazy this was. Could have bought this book for $4 or $5, then you can see it inflated in January up to $175. Absolutely insane. So you might think that, hey, when the price goes that low again, let's buy a whole bunch of copies. But one thing that you'll notice is that when that next July came, you can actually see that that used offer count didn't really decrease. Instead, it has only started going up. And so you can see over time, the general trend, even though there has been ebbs and flows in offer count, the overall trend is going upward. And so that means, this is a book that had very few offers on it. Now, all of a sudden, it has up to 60 offers. And when, again, the number of people on the listing increase significantly, you expect the price to be much lower because there's just more competition, right? There's more people who want to sell the book. Okay, and the final example is actually going to be an Avatar book here. So the second Avatar movie came out here on December 16, 2022. A lot of people really love this series, and you can see in anticipation for that, you can see how the used price of this basically just started increasing even in November to the point when it actually released December 16th. This book was pretty much out of stock. There's literally no one selling this book because everyone had bought this book. But again, look at how this book was literally worth absolutely nothing for years. The baseline value of this book was right around $1 to $3 for basically 10 years, right? It took forever for the second movie to come out. And then all of a sudden, as soon as we get talk or hear talk of this new, this new Avatar coming out, the second Avatar, we can see how that price inflated. And this book was literally selling at $200. Absolutely insane. Now, notice that once people stopped caring about this and the offer count started increasing because there are less and less people buying this, notice how the price of this book has now come back down. Now it's about $46. And I would bet you that over time, the used offer count is going to get right back up here to 60 to 70, and then it's going to be worth probably around $2 again. All right, the fifth Keepa tip I have is for you to understand that sales rank is dynamic. Now, you always get this advice, if you're new, stay under 1 million in books. Well, that's, I think, really great beginner advice. What you really need to know is that sales rank is just a metric that can change all the time. And it's dynamic in that it can be misleading if you only use the number of sales rank to help you determine whether or not you want to buy a book. And I'm going to give you a great example here of what I mean. So I'm going to have 3 books here that all have the same sales rank. So here's the first book here. This is The Journey to Atlantis. So we scroll down to the Keepa chart. What we can see is that if we zoom in or we can actually click the day here. We just click on day. Right now, the sales rank is right around 300,000. Okay. And if we look back at a year's worth of data, one thing you'll notice is that the sales rank of this book is dropping all the time. This is a book that clearly is selling numerous times, right? Because we see the sales rank really low. We see it going up and down, improving all the time and dropping. Now, let's look at another book that also has the same sales rank. So let's also look at today. This book, by the way, is called, Arnhem 1944, An Epic Battle Revisited. So if we scroll down here to the Keepa chart, and we look at today, sales rank is 300,005. So this book is technically the same popularity according to Amazon as the other book. But if we look at the last year, notice that this book has way fewer sales rank drops. So this book actually sells much less often than the other book, yet they have the same sales rank. Now let's look at one more example. So here's a book called Every Waking Moment. It's a mass paperback. We scroll down to the Keepa chart and we look at the last day. We look at today, you can see that the sales rank is 300,035. So this book is, again, basically the same sales rank. According to Amazon, it's the same popularity as those other two books, yet we look at 1 year's worth of data, you only actually count a few sales rank drops here. So, it's interesting how you can have a whole bunch of different products, yet the number of times that they're dropping in sales rank is vastly different, indicating that they all sell a different amount of times, yet they have the same sales rank. So that's just to show you that sales rank is dynamic. And a lot of the times, when you scan a book or when you're looking at a book, matters a lot. For example, if let's say you came to this listing on this date here, which was right before the sales rank drop, this would be February 8th. The sales rank would have been 2.7 million. You might be thinking, okay, this book is not really going to sell that often because the sales rank is 2.7 million. But then notice the sales rank of this book drops all the way down here the next day on February 9th, and all of a sudden the sales rank is 160,000. Your perception of how fast this book sells is vastly different based upon when you look at the book or when you scan the book, which is why I think taking a quick glance at the Keepa chart to look at when the sales rank drops is actually very important for determining how often something sells. Obviously, if you look at this book, it appears to sell much more frequently than any of the other books. All right, the sixth Keepa tip I have here for you is to understand that just because Amazon is selling a book, that doesn't automatically disqualify you from being able to sell that book. I think a lot of advice people get is that if Amazon's on the listing, don't sell it. And I think you have to understand the context for that statement. I think a lot of people do traditional online arbitrage where they're trying to sell items in new condition. So they are actually competing with Amazon because they have a new product. Amazon has the same new product, and they're both trying to get the best price, both trying to sell it to a customer. What we're doing is not selling new items. We're selling used books. So if Amazon happens to be selling the book that we have in used condition, but they happen to be selling in new condition, we just got to make sure that we're significantly below Amazon so that a reasonable human being could come and say, should I buy this book in used condition and save $15? And I think a logical human being is likely to do that. So yeah, just because Amazon's on the listing, that doesn't automatically disqualify you from being able to sell the book. And again, here's some examples of what I mean. Here's the ruthless elimination of hurry. If we scroll down here to the Keepa chart, notice that this little yellow button, which represents Amazon price, notice that it's always around $16. So a lot of people, again, advice to here is Amazon's on the listing, don't sell it. It's furthest from the truth, specifically is what we're doing, selling used books, right? Notice that the used price is below Amazon's price, so that's good. Amazon's selling this for $16. This book's baseline value in used condition looks to be between $8 and $11. Could I reasonably assume that somebody is willing to save $5 to buy this book in used condition rather than get a brand new? Absolutely. How do I know that? Because I do it all the time. I'm more than happy to save $5 to buy to buy a book in used very good condition rather than buy it new. Now let me show you some books that have actually sold today. So let's look at this first book here, Loose Leaf for Contemporary Management. I sold this today, 31 minutes ago actually, for $87.70. Here's that same book over here on Amazon. You can see that this yellow line is present on the Keepa graph, so Amazon is in stock at $105. Yeah, I sold mine for $87. Why? Because there's a logical human being out there who says, this book is really expensive. Do I want to spend an extra $13 to get it brand new, or should I just buy it from Joji, get it $13 cheaper, and get the same exact content in a very similar condition, very good condition? Well, obviously, this is a book that did so. And by the way, one hint or one tip that the book is actually selling in used condition, even though Amazon's on the listing, is that you can see how the used offer count is not static. It's not staying the same. It's not only going up, it's changing. It's going up and down. So this book here, you can see how the offer count is ebbing and flowing. It's going up and down. In the previous example, notice how the used offer count here also goes up and down. So there's the used offer count, it's going up and down. So that's evidence that that book is moving, it's selling in used condition. Now, one more example of a book that I sold today in used condition where Amazon's on the listing. This comparative anatomy book sold for $70.46. Again, here it is. You can see on the buy box. Looks like actually Amazon's on the buy box, so that's interesting. But if we come down here to the Keepa chart, notice that Amazon is on this listing for $142. Could I reasonably assume that somebody wants to save $70 by buying in used condition? Absolutely, right? When I was when I was a college student, I did that all the time. I never bought my books in new condition because all I needed was the content. I could get the content much more cheaply in a good or very good condition, sometimes acceptable condition, but I can save money by doing that, and other people are willing to do that. All right, the seventh tip I have you to become a Keepa pro is to understand that a lot of products have seasonality. A lot of products don't sell the same throughout the entire year. A lot of times a product will sell much better during a certain time of the year. I'm gonna give you some examples of that. So just be aware that if you come across a listing or you come across a book and the book is worth only a couple bucks, but it is something about a seasonal topic, definitely go look at the Keepa chart and see if it shows seasonality, because I guarantee you're passing up probably, if you're somebody who goes garage selling, going to library sales or thrift stores, you probably passed up like hundreds of seasonal books that had no value because the time in which you're scanning it was not when people would want the book. So again, let me show you an example. Halloween is just around the corner. It's coming up in a couple of months. This is Too Many Pumpkins. Let's come down here to the Keepa chart. If you were to scan this in March, May, July, you would notice that this book's right around $5. Has a sales rank at times up to 1 million. So most people would pass on this. They would scan it with their scanner and they would just move on. They wouldn't buy it, right? But notice that if we expand the data the last 4,300 days, you'll see that this used price during a specific time of year always happens to go up. Why might they be? Because this is a book about Halloween, right? So people want this book during Halloween, and you can see how this price gets up to about $30, sometimes even more than that during these times. You can see the previous September, October, that this book got up to $30 with sales rank drops, went out of stock. So people were buying this all the time. And again, this is a book that a lot of people would pass on. Yeah, this is something that if they were to look at a Keepa chart, they'd realize, I should probably buy this for $2 because I'm getting a great deal on it. That's really, you can't buy it any cheaper than that at Amazon. And this is a book that basically always inflates to about $30. So let me give you another example. So here's another book that is $1.77 right now, The Longest Night, a Passover story. A lot of people would just pass this over because it's a Passover story. Kind of funny, but if you scroll down to the Keepa chart, again, what you'll notice is if we expand the last 4,000 days, again, this is something that is super, super cheap during some times of the years and then super expensive during some times of years. Looks like this book always starts increasing right around March, April. So we have it there. We also have it March, April there. We also have it March, April there. Again, 2022, March, April, this book was selling with sales rank drops at $49.99. See how I'm looking at the whole historical data, and then I'm zooming in on specific times. Look at this, 5 or 6 sales rank drops here on, between early to mid-April, all of around $50. This is a book you could have bought for like $1 to $2. You can buy it right now for $1.71. So what exactly is this book? Well, it looks like it's about the Exodus, and turns out that's the seasonality for when people would want to buy this book. Now, last book, I know we covered this topic already, but again, the night before Christmas, a lot of people would see that this book is worth $2, would automatically pass it. But again, notice if we look at the last 2,900 days, you see the same thing over and over and over again. Every single year, offer count down here on the bottom takes a nosedive during November, December, because it's a Christmas book. Now, one thing I will say about this is not every book about Halloween or Christmas or Easter or Thanksgiving or whatever you name it is getting inflated in price. That's why you have to check Keepa. A lot of times those books don't inflate in price because there's really no one wants it. Just because someone made or published a book about pumpkins doesn't mean that people want that book during Halloween. There has to be something inherently about it that people really like, right? So I really hope that this video helped you out. 7 tips that I think are going to definitely elevate your Keepa game and help you become better at online book arbitrage. That's all I got for you today. I hope you had a great one, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.